Welcome to the 10-Minute Flick School. Fast, cheap, and in control. Or rather, the importance of being well versed in special effects and technology in modern movie making. So that you're not just cutting edge and fiscally responsible, but that you have ultimate freedom as well. We had to shoot this movie very fast. And with such a large cast, actors were not always on the set at the same time, even if they're in a scene together. This was the first day of shooting. Whip pan over to Salma Hayek, who wasn't even there because she wouldn't arrive until the last week of shooting. That's when we shot this second half of the pan. And with a little edit in between, makes it look like one continuous shot to help tie them together. That's a low budget trick, but so are the following tricks, done with a computer. In Desperado, I did a knife gag, and they didn't really work. We did them practically, and you're extremely limited by what you can do. For the knife throw in this movie, I just had Salma toss her hands out in a very dramatic, almost comic book pose. Reference is always key. I just dragged real knives across the frame to see how they looked in the light. For Antonio's reaction shot, I held 2 air canisters, the kind that you use to blow the dust off your lens. I put them right under frame, one for each side of his head, and on action, we blew his hair back. And the guys in the back react. And that's it. A little CG later and some gnarly sound effects. And you move on. For Cheech's eye, kind of figured that a dummy wouldn't look real enough in sunlight, so I shot Cheech on the ground, then with a grease marker I just drew an outline of his body on the little HD monitor we had there. Laid the dummy in the same position, lined it up to the grease marker outline. Put him together digitally, taking the eye cavity of the dummy and adding that to the real Cheech. That's why it holds up under scrutiny, because it's not a dummy. And the eye was really shot there on the set. That way it's really Cheech, and since it's a real cavity in real light, it doesn't look like a CGI.
Well, I suppose I should thank you for not sticking it up your ass.
As opposed to Johnny's eyes, which were done completely digital, because he's in constant movement. Reference again is key. I had a dummy of Johnny's head so I could see what the eye sockets look like reacting to light. So that when we built the CG version, it would be based on something that was real in a real situation. Originally, I'd budgeted in for 70 effect shots, just based on the script, and it ballooned to close to 400. And yet we still stayed under budget, because effects, again, are much cheaper these days. And since we're shooting digital, any shot could become an effect shot instantly. We didn't have to scan the film in and record film in. Knowing that, when we came up against a problem such as no guns, we had no guns for the first 2 weeks, we didn't have time to get our movie guns across the border in Mexico. So all we had were rubber guns for this church shootout. So I just had Antonio aim the rubber gun and mimic shooting, and then later we added in the flame and even the shells coming out and extra spark hits on the wall. It was great because then we could really shoot up the church without having to harm the church. We could put big holes in the walls digitally. The only problem was that Antonio had to get used to shooting without blanks in the gun. For the first few takes, he was actually mimicking gunshots with his mouth because it was silent and he couldn't get a feel for it. But once he got past that, it worked. Whenever you do gun hits on the wall, you can either squib the wall, which takes quite a bit of time, or you can shoot a spark gun at it. Pretty lame. Again, since we shot this digital, goes right into the computer, and we can add in more gun hits. Now, the reason I shot the few spark hits that we did was so you'd have reference for what they look like. Here's the hotel escape scene. Now, this was a scene I originally wrote for Desperado and cut it out of the script because I just figured it would be impossible to do. And 7 years later, wire removal is much easier. So we still have the actors hanging there with no net beneath them, but they're securely wired to a crane. All you do is erase the wire. It's still physically challenging for the actors, but at least they know they're not going to fall anywhere. I mean, we erase the crane, erase the shadows. So an elaborate scene like this, imagined years ago, is now possible because of the lowered cost of special effects. Salma getting pulled, this is what it looked like before. We added in the bullet hits coming up behind her closer because we wouldn't have done that to her on set. We had safety guys on top and on the side as they're doing their climb over, and we just digitally erase them. Bullet hits get enhanced digitally. We shot a guacamole gun at him. Little pipe, compressed air, and blood shot at the guy's face. We added in the bullet hole later, though, that little black spot in the center of his head. Just paint that in. It's almost like Photoshop. We did a lot of the bullet hits that way. Here, we're in an actual government building, so we can't shoot the place up. That's what it looked like. We add in gunshots, bullet hits onto the wall. We can screw up the place digitally, so we don't have to spend the time rigging walls, cleaning up the walls afterwards. You just cut down on all the time. What's great about shooting digitally and knowing effects is that if you come up with an idea, like this was the last day of shooting, and we still had some time left on Johnny Depp, and Johnny wanted to do something else, and we thought, hey, well, let's get that dream shot we had, getting a shot of Johnny driving away down the road, a spoon in one hand still in his fake arm, and then his third arm coming up while he's smoking. Okay, now we'd have to go out on the road and get that. I thought, well, maybe if we have time, we'll just drop a green screen down in the middle of the street wherever we're filming our last day of shooting. If we have time, we'll just drop a green screen behind you and film you, and then I could get a plate later. We came across this sunset as we're driving away from a location, and you can see it's just shaking because we're just hand holding it on the truck down a bumpy Mexican road. But digitally later, we're able to smooth it out enough. It still has that processed look, which is kind of what we were going for. Again, what's so great about shooting digitally is you can just move so fast. Here, Johnny wasn't originally supposed to play the priest inside the confessional. He just wanted to do one last thing before he got on the airplane and left. Put on a Brando accent and
Protection you will definitely need.
and go. Quick and easy digital effects are also like just removing things like reflections of the crew in glasses or a blur type effect like this in this scene where Johnny's supposed to be drugged. You just shoot it clean and put in the effect later, and you can really experiment more with the effect instead of noodling around there on the set. Here's some non-effect low-budget techniques. At the last minute, the Mexican government decided not to give us their tanks and vehicles when they read the script and saw that the general was evil. So we had to use really old, crappy Jeeps that local people just collected to make it look like a big army. We shot it from a helicopter, just handheld from a helicopter. Some more CG enhancements. I just had the stuntman do a 360, knowing that I would put in motorcycles and the stuntmen digitally later, getting run over, instead of staging this elaborate stunt where someone would get killed probably doing it. Here's another way we did to move quickly and to avoid a lot of green screen work was this sliding down the stairs. I wanted just to do practically there in the light. So we shot him there on location, coming down some cardboard, shot him separate, and then I shot the guy's reaction. And then, well, after he fell, I got the clean plate and put it together, and it looks like he's coming down the stairs. Here's some non-effect shots just in production design. Long lenses, a lot of paper, streamers, these giant masks to help sell size. You look real close, if you pause it, you see that there's really not that many people there. They're just holding up these giant heads. Here's a wipe across the statue. Again, you're kind of blocking the frame to make it feel more crowded than it is. It's the first morning Johnny Depp worked. We're waiting for him to go through wardrobe and makeup. I just grabbed the camera, pulled it down, and dropped it in the middle of this side street where the lighting was very nice. And I thought, you know what, this is where we'll shoot that scene where we're going to shoot later today. Let's shoot it tomorrow morning. The lighting is just perfect for some good coverage. And the very next day you show up, and all added is a little bit of smoke, some paper streamers, some junk in the street, and that's it. The lighting does the rest. You get freedom when you can consistently deliver movies that are profitable, that don't cost, and your chances for being profitable are greater, obviously, if you don't spend the farm on things you could have done inexpensively by just thinking about it for a few minutes and by versing yourself in technology and effects. So for a shot like this, first we shoot the guys just arriving on their cart being pulled by wires. Then we put dummies in place and run it over with a truck just a few moments later, so that the lighting is the same and it's locked off. We had the camera shake later. For the convertible shot, we got ready for the stunt and then just shot this little piece just before we did the stunt. I had the guy make sure he ran one direction, changed his mind, and then ran back. That would make it look more like a blooper. So part of that was just in the performance of the guy. And like this one here, we shot, we squibbed his legs, and of course it wasn't very impressive. And I thought, it's alright, later on digitally we'll go ahead and just take his knees out. These are effects that are a lot of times thought up on the spot, and if you know the basics of special effects, you can come up with these ideas as they hit you, shoot them, and move on. So that you're shooting fast, cheap, and always in total absolute control.
Oh shit! Holy shit! You okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, almost always. Have fun.